Hey everyone, welcome to the Caffeine and Coping Podcast. We have real conversation, fuel your mind, and help you navigate student life with more clarity, courage, and coffee. If you enjoyed this episode, help us grow. Hit like, subscribe, or leave a quick comment or rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. It takes 2 seconds and makes a huge difference in helping other students discover this conversation. All right, let's dive in. Today we had an amazing conversation with the great scientist Sonia Lupien. Hi, welcome to the Caffeine Coping Podcast. Today we have an awesome guest, and I'm very honored and very excited to be welcoming to our podcast. And it's Sonia Lupien. And I just want to let you present yourself. You all know her through podcasts, to maybe through radio, through the courses I teach in ACT program, because I teach some of the science of stress that she teach. But when it comes from her, it's always really human, well explained, and concrete. And that's what I really like about you, Sonia. It's when you discuss science, we can really feel it, and it's very concrete and human, and it's a very strength that you have. So thank you for accepting to do this podcast in English with me for Champlain students.
My pleasure, Karim. So you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please. So
Easy.
yeah,
Easy. I'm Dr. Stress. No, I'm joking, but I have been studying the effects of stress on the human brain for about 30 years now. So, as I always say, I have the greatest job in the world. I'm paid to stress people every day. So, we bring them to the lab, we stress them, and we see what it does to, their performance, memory, emotions, etc. Or we follow them through their life, and we measure. And what we measure in the lab, we don't use questionnaires to measure stress because everyone has a different definition of stress. We measure the stress hormones, that your body will produce when you're stressed out. We measure this in blood samples, saliva, hair, nails.
yeah.
And so everything I talk about is always based on this biological science of stress.
So there's something a little bit sadistic to stress people in the lab. So to measure the reaction and take the blood sample
I
and
have
so
to say
on.
that sometimes it's fun, but not always. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you just said some important topics. You said stress hormones that have an impact on the body. You said you measure also the impact on the memory and different things that are related to students. But I want to know, what is something you believe that we get wrong about the stress in our teenagers or young adults that today's world? Do you feel that's something we always say, like there's our perception on the younger generation and how there's capacity to adapt to stress? You always hear stuff. Do you feel there's something we get wrong about the younger generation and how they tackle stress, or what the society they live in, you know?
Oh, yeah. Something very, very wrong that I will undo right now.
Okay.
And please believe me, because you
Okay.
may not believe me, you young people out there, but you're going to pay for it if you don't believe Sonia. The thing that, young people think about stress is what we call negative stress mindset.
Mhm.
So a mindset is a preconception. It's an idea you have of something. And what we realized, a few years ago, a couple of teachers, school boards, etc., came to my lab and say, Sonia, you have to do something because there's an epidemic of anxiety, in college and high schools, etc. 67% of kids are anxious. I said, God, survival of the species is at stake. A67. So we did a study in 3,000, kids, elementary school and high school. And we measured what type of anxiety they show, because there are different types. And there are some anxiety that are normal. It's normal to be anxious. So we pathologize anxiety,
Mhm.
which is the first mistake we do. So that's the first. The second mistake, when we studied that, we found that what was what created this anxiety epidemics in high school and college, the same, I'm pretty sure, is negative stress mindset. What I mean by that is that 99% of young adults and older adults as well think that stress is always negative, toxic, and it's going to kill you. So we have negative stress mindset. Now, the thing is, your brain is a detector of threatening information. That's the job of your brain. Your brain was created to detect threatening information in order to help you survive. So every time the brain detects a threat, it will activate a very complex system that will lead to the production of stress hormones. Now, these stress hormones go back to the brain, they have an interesting preference when they go back to the brain for those brain regions that are involved in learning and memory. This is why we have problems
Mhm.
learning when we're stressed out, and other regions involved in emotion, our capacity to control our emotion. Now, the brain is a detector of threatening information. The threatening information doesn't have to be real. The difference between stress and anxiety: in stress, the threat is right there in front of you, ready to attack. In anxiety, the threat is in your head.
So you
But
can see it or you can just think of it.
yeah. So for your brain, whoops,
I hear
I
you.
have, okay,
Okay.
I wasn't sure. So what you need to understand is that if you think that stress is always negative, let's go back to negative stress mindset, okay? If you think that stress is always negative and it's going to kill you, each time you got to have a normal stress response, you will activate this negative stress mindset,
Mm.
and you will have a stress response. So I was not clear. Let me put this together the best way. Everyone thinks that stress is negative. And then we are surprised that when you have, I don't know, a 16-year-old person who, since this person was born, when they look at their social media, when they look at Facebook, whatever, they are told that stress is negative, toxic, and it's going to kill them. And then we are surprised when this person has a normal stress response. For example, during an exam,
An exam
they
period,
are
yeah.
going to have a panic attack because they're sure they are going to die. Okay.
Mm.
And the negative stress mindset, why do we have this? It's the fault of scientists. I'm sorry. And journalists. Why? Scientists, because for the last 60 years, since the beginning, that when we started to study human stress, we only measured the negative effects of stress. And journalists, they report what we say, what we find. So this is what you read in the newspaper. Why do we only study the negative effects of stress? Because if I do a grant application to have money to do a study proposing to study the positive effects of stress, they will say, Sonia is weird because, I
Yeah.
have to solve a problem. But the thing is, what you need to understand, it's a long answer, but it's an important one.
Yeah.
What you need to understand is that there's an inverted U-shape function between stress and performance.
Mm.
A little bit of stress is extremely good for your brain. It will increase your performance. It will increase your vigilance. It will help you remember, etc. And at a certain level of stress, bam, you're going to
Listen to
have
that. I just want to
the
repeat what you
negative.
just said for everyone. A little bit of stress is very good for your brain at a
Yeah,
certain point. Helps you
yeah,
memorize, perform, and overcome some obstacles. That's right.
yeah. And what you need to understand is that stress was not created by your brain to render your life miserable.
Mm.
Why would the brain do that? Why would the brain create something that's going to make you sick and unhappy?
Mm.
So what you need to understand is that your brain was not created to make you happy. The brain doesn't care if you're happy or not. The main goal of your brain is to have you survive long enough to have babies. So
Exactly.
the survival of the species is going to happen.
Mhm.
So this is what the brain does. So it detects threat, and when there is a threat, produce stress hormones, and these stress hormones go back to the brain. Now, if you look around yourself and you spend your time seeing threat and talking about negative stuff, talking about negative politics, talking about all this stuff, the message you send to your brain is that there's a bunch of threat out there, and the brain does its job, bam, produce stress hormones,
Mhm.
bam, that go back to the brain. Let me just talk to you about this, perhaps one or two if you have the time,
Mhm.
because I think I'm going to convince you guys with this. The first study is that they brought to the lab people who have negative stress mindset. Stress is bad.
Mhm.
And they brought people who have positive stress mindset. They are people, athletes, for example, they know that stress is good. It increases their strength.
Mhm.
Comedians know that having a little bit of stress can be good. So they brought people who had negative stress mindset and people who had positive stress mindset. And they measured the stress hormones of these people. And they found that those who have negative stress mindset produce a lot of stress hormones, while those who have positive stress mindset don't.
Mhm.
Then they took people who had negative stress mindset, and for a week they showed them movie about the positive effects of stress. they were able to decrease stress hormones.
Really?
In contrast, oh yeah, in contrast, they took people who had positive stress mindset, and for a week they showed them movies about the negative and
Hmm.
toxic effect of stress, and they were able to increase stress hormones. So the way you see stress as being negative or positive will determine if you're stressed out.
So your perception on the situation, on your own stress, on the threat that your brain perceive is very, very important. So the
Yeah,
support is the fault of a scientist, of course, and media. I can see it, what you just mean by that. But what you're saying, it's stop being afraid of stress, anxiety. Try to take a
that
step back and stop
exactly.
demonizing. But in
Yeah,
some case, like let's step back. I'm a teacher. You're a teacher as well in university. Are we overstressing? Not overstressing, because we put pressure. Like when my students tell me, and I'm not stigmatizing you guys, but when it's midterm time, everybody's stressed out and say we're overwhelmed. Say, of course you're overwhelmed. It's super tough, like midterms and final exam period. Is it a way that they can have a step back in those situations and find not just tools, but to you're saying that the mindset of this can be like an engine to perform rather than a way to procrastinate and say I'm overstressed and I need to cope through Netflix, to screens, to something else. What advice would you give to students in that regard in the
couple of
exam
them.
period?
The first thing, remember the inverted U shape
Mhm.
between stress and performance. A little bit of stress. I know you don't believe me. Please do. They are, but I could fill up the room with paper showing this. So that's fine.
Reliever.
It increases, okay? And then it decreases. Now, if you sit a couple of days before an exam, or if you sit in the exam room and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. You're going to produce so much stress hormones. Your performance will decrease. Now, if you sit in the same room and instead of saying this is a stress, you say this is a challenge. This is
Mhm.
not a stress. It's a challenge. Okay. This is not a stress. It's a challenge. You will produce just enough stress hormone
Mhm.
to increase your performance. That's something extremely, so the way you will perceive the entire situation. Now, from the beginning, Karim, we have been talking about stress as this big, ugly
Mhm. Yeah.
concept. Stress is much simpler than that. Let's go back because I'm going to teach you something that might be helpful for you as well. So let's go back to what I've said. What we learned so far is that the brain is a detector of
Yeah.
threatening information. And when the brain detects a threat, it produces stress hormones that go back to the brain. Now let's go back to the threat. What is a threat?
What is a threat?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Because, the problem we had in the lab is the following. I can bring two people to my lab and expose them to the same stressful
mhm.
situation, and I measure the stress hormones. One of the two person will have an increase in stress hormones. They're stressing, and not the other. So it was very difficult until scientists said, okay, but there might be characteristics of a situation, whatever the situation, that will
Take notes,
produce
students. Take notes. This is
as yeah,
important.
a stress that will produce a stress response. So they started studying that, and they found that there are four characteristics. And
Mhm.
I challenge your listeners right now that we're going to do a little game. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. You don't need more than that to go back into your brain and pick up a stressor of your week. Find one. You have so many. 5 seconds, you have enough. And I'm going to explain it. I'm sure of that.
Mm.
Why? Because scientists have found that there are four characteristics of a situation that will induce a stress response, whoever you are, whatever you are, whatever your age. The thing is that you don't need to have all four characteristics for the situation to produce a stress response. The more you have, the worse it is. Now, so bring back your stressor, and if one of the four characteristics or more explains it, put a little, cross check near it. So, in order for a situation to lead to a stress response, it has to be novel. It has to be unpredicted or unpredictable. It must be threatening to your personality. Someone questioning your capacity to do your
Mhm.
job at this podcast, for example,
Yeah.
in front of people, like, the little feeling you have is a
Mhm.
stress response. And most importantly, you must have the feeling, that's important, the feeling that you don't have control over the situation. I can assure you that each time you're facing one or more of these 4 characteristics, you will produce a stress response. So basically, in order for you to remember this, remember that the stress recipe is nuts.
Mm.
Novelty, U for unpredictability, T for threat to your ego, and S for sense of control. So let's go back to exams. Well, it's not novel. You've done a lot. That's fine. It's unpredictable. You have no idea what
Mhm.
question will be asked. This is why they come and see you. And you know what we do?
Yeah.
We have to
Can I have a
study.
study guide? Can I? I'm
It
kidding.
might be threatening to your ego because if you want to enter, medicine, for
Mhm.
example, you need a GPA of 250, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's very, very stressful, and you don't necessarily have the control over the situation. And the less you master what you need to know, the more you will be stressed because it decreases your sense of control. Your brain is
Mm.
not stupid; it knows that it doesn't know, right? So, this is it. That is it's and what you need to understand is that every time you will have an exam, you will have a stress response. This is called life.
Yeah.
You cannot decrease it. The day you stop being stressed out, survival of the species is at stake. In the field of science, when we want to measure stress in the environment, we use exams.
Mhm.
So we go into your classrooms and we measure stress hormones before and after the exam. So it is normal. And what you need to understand as well, you students, many of you come from, very far away, and then you enter, college, and you have a new apartment, you have no friends, etc. Yes, you were stressed. For sure, you were stressed. Because what you need to understand, let's go back to the nuts characteristics:
Mhm.
novelty, unpredictability, threat to your ego, sense of low control. Each time for the rest of your life that you will experience a transition to a new school, transition to a new city, transition to a new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Every time you will experiment the transition, you will have a stress response. That's it. Simple as that. And
That's
it will
it.
go away. It's just a stress response. It will not kill you.
So it's just so what you're saying is it's very important here again. So first you say it's novel, sometimes it's unpredictable, but when you see it coming, you can sometimes prepare, so you can gain
Mhm.
some sense of control. So if one of those four
Yeah.
variables, like of the nuts, acronyms, you can get some control by preparation. Like just say this podcast. I'm like, oh, Sonia say yes for a podcast. I'm super excited, but the excitement is the stress.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is coming. This is real. She said yes. And in fact, something unpredictable happened. Sonia told me, I think yesterday, hey, finally, I'm available tomorrow. I was like, oh, I didn't see it coming. So let's
I
go.
stressed you. I'm good, eh?
Yeah. But I prepared because I read her
Mhm.
book, so
Mhm.
I know what I'm talking about. So, and I'm ready. I was prepared for this interview and I'm super glad. But there's something about it that I want to discuss with you. It is other than just the perception on the stressful situation. When you accord a value to this, so let's say an exam is important, it's stressful. But if in your mindset, you have in your perspective, the exam is stressful, but my studies are important to me. Like you link the stressful situation to values, to something that is meaningful to you. Does it help you to reduce the stress or to tackle? Because there's always people that when they're facing stress, they will freeze or run away. Like there's a bear outside, you want to run away. But some people, they jump in, they tackle that stress. And and in my clinical practice and as a psychoeducator, I observed that some of those people, it's not that they have a sense of esteem sometimes, but they see a meaning underneath it, bigger than the situation. They see it just like this is a milestone. There's something for me behind this. I need just to go through that painful, stressful situation. Do you feel that it's important to set the action towards values in those situations? I don't know if my question is clear for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a colleague of mine, his name is Jens Prusner, a few years ago, took people, human beings, every age, brought them to the lab and stressed them 7 days in a row.
That looks fun.
Now, two things can happen. Your stress response can habituate. So you will produce less and less stress hormones as the week goes by, because I've been there, done that. It's not novel, it's not unpredictable, okay, so it will decrease. But in some people, it increases. It's called sensitization. Why? Because they didn't like it the first time, and the second time they say, oh my God, tomorrow I have to go there again. And then they anticipate, they anticipate what is happening, and the stress response will increase. It's called habituation versus sensitization. We know that when you take human beings and you do this, you will have the two road pathway. Now, what is the thing that will determine if you habituate or if you sensitize? There is one thing that he showed: self-esteem. So,
Self-esteem.
self-esteem. Those who had a good self-esteem saw this as a challenge, and they habituated. I can do that, I got this. And those who said, I cannot do this, I cannot do this, I cannot do this, who had low self-esteem, sensitized. So self-esteem is something very, very, as weird as it may sound, very important for the human stress response, because if you have low self-esteem, and as you said correctly, you seldom have this idea that you can make it, that you have control over the situation.
Got this.
And there's a beautiful book. You kids, you can read this. It's written for the public by a woman. She's a scientist. Her studies are so, so interesting. I think her name is Carol Dweck, Dweck. Isekai, yeah. And I think the title in English is Mindset. The power of mindset in humans. And it's not mindset about stress. It's a mindset about capacity. And she showed in her studies that there are growth mindset and there are other types of mindset. But people, when they have to do something, they have 2 points of view that are very different. Some people say you need to have talent to do that. And I don't have the talent, so I cannot do that. Simple as that. Okay. Yeah. Other people say you need to practice. I don't have the talent, but I will practice and I will make it. And what is very interesting for those of you who really like sports out there, she's using a lot of the best athletes in the world to explain this, and she studied them. Let's take Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was, an amazing athlete. He had no talents. When you go back, he was bad. But the only thing is that he believed that if he was working and working and working, he would make it. So it's not talent. So your mindset will determine your self-esteem, which will predict your stress response. So this is something very, very, so the power of the mind on the human stress response, because the stressor that we're talking about are called relative stressor, novelty, unpredictable. They are absolute stressor. If all of us, we were in Ukraine right now, or Gaza, novelty, unpredictability, this is not what's going to, this is called an absolute stressor. It's a real threat to our survival. The stress response that we would produce would save our lives. Okay, but we're not talking about this. We're talking about relative stressor. And when you're talking about relative stressor, the way you interpret the situation is about 80% of what you will produce
80%.
as a stress response. So that's a very, very important thing to remember.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
And can I just add something? Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, of course. You're my guest. Be my guest.
Let's go back to mindset.
Okay.
Growth mindset or talent mindset, leading to self-esteem, leading to stress response, etc. So I think that I keep forgetting what I want to tell you. I just wanted to tell you something, and okay, let's go back and I'll come back to it.
You said there was absolute stress, relative stress, and
no, it's not that. Oh yeah, I remember it. Thank you.
Yes.
We need to understand something very important. Stress ensures survival of the species because it pushes humans to adapt. In order to deal with stress, you need to accept to adapt to the stressor. I didn't say accept the stressor. I say accept to adapt to the stressor. Me, I see every stressor in my life as big block of stress that life puts on my pathway. This is called life. So when life puts a stress block on my pathway, I have two choices. I keep going and then I stress, or I decide to adapt to the presence of the stress block and I can turn around and go this way or this way. It's going to be longer, but I'll make it. Now, this is the key. When you accept to adapt to a stressor, you need to accept another thing, and this is so important. You need to accept to make mistake.
Mm,
People, you don't understand. If you don't make mistake, you cannot learn. You cannot have 100% all the time. The brain would die. You have no idea how the brain is happy when you make a
mm,
mistake, because the brain is there to learn.
to
So when you
learn.
make a mistake, the brain is kind
Yeah.
look at this. Stress ensures survival of the species because it pushes humans to adapt. But in order to adapt, humans make mistakes, trial mistakes, and in the long run, they become more and more intelligent. And this is why we have, artificial intelligence. I'm not sure if it's intelligent, but anyway, today, instead of being
Yeah.
behind a mammoth with a spear. So if you don't make mistake, you don't grow.
It's so interesting that you say that because our last guest was Dr. Michelle Généreux from Public Health, and
Hmm.
she went to the Olympic Games in Paris, and she was following some Olympic athletes, and some of those high level athletes explained that to her, and she shared that with us. She said, "You need to make mistakes and to
Ah
learn."
oui.
I never. She said, "I never failed. I just learn every time."
Yeah.
So, and
And that's
about
the growth mindset.
exactly, exactly. And I guess to be an Olympic athlete, you need some growth mindset. That being said, when you say learning, it relates to memory. Can you tell us why sometimes, because we can all relate, like I remember clearly when I was 6 years old, I fell with my red bicycle in my street. I remember it was sunny outside, every details of the situation. I remember when I was in grade six, it was 9/11. How people was panicking. Why our brain remember stressful in that learning situation so well? And why in exam period, when people are binge studying, they kind of forget everything when even if it's stressful. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but the memory, the learning, it's so important in those stressful situations. What do you think about that? Or what you've learned through your studies?
It's always the same answer, Karim.
Mhm.
Survival of the species. That's the difference
Wow.
between the two I explained. I told you we showed that when the brain detects a threat, produces stress hormones that go back to the brain and will impact on memory. Now,
Mhm.
when we learned that, we were very depressed, scientists, because our little model, stress equals survival of the species, didn't work anymore. Why? Because we said, okay, I understand that producing stress hormones that gives you the energy to fight or to flee makes sense. But why in the world would these stress hormones go back in the brain and impact memory would be good? Doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense. But if it's there, must be for a reason. So we studied this for many years. And one day, scientists found that even that, when these stress hormones go back to your brain and impact your memory, it's good for survival. And they understood that when they thought about Bambi. You know, Bambi Walt Disney, but in the science of stress, we have the Bambi example to understand this. So I will share it with you. So let's say you're Bambi and you decide to go take a walk in the wood today,
Mhm.
and then you come face to face with a bear. Now, if you come face to face with a bear, there are two things you want to do if you want to survive. First, you want to mobilize enough energy to start running so the bear doesn't get you. And the second thing you want to remember is to never go back there because there's a bear.
Mhm.
And it is these stress hormones going back to your brain that will tell you never forget this if you want to survive. So if we
Mhm.
go back, for example, to the events of September 11 or any traumatic experience, it is these stress hormones going back to your brain and saying, never forget this. So anyone listening to me right now, if you had a big car accident, you were attacked on the street, etc., you know. And when you come on a street that looks a bit like where you were attacked, bam, you will reactivate. This is your brain putting you
Yeah.
on vigilance and saying, oh, don't forget that. Now, this is what we call emotionally based memory or traumatic memories. Okay, so this is how the survival is at stake. Why is it that we are scared of forgetting whatever we learned during the exam? This is not emotional memory. This is neutral memory. For the
Mhm.
brain, it's neutral. There's no survival of the species at stake. Right?
Mhm.
Right? So, yeah, perhaps you're going to be upset if you have a bad score, but it's not survival of the species. So this is neutral memory. And the brain will process this a very, very different way. So it is going to put importance on it. But, and the most important factor is mastery. Do you have mastery over, did you study enough,
Yeah.
etc., in order to have the feeling you have control? If not, you're going to pay for it. The brain doesn't care. It
Mhm.
really doesn't care. As weird as it may sound, it
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't.
And it's fun to not fun, but it's realistic to see it this way. And this is so true that the brain doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to
Yeah.
survive and be and just like chase dopamine and avoid stressor. That's what we want.
Yeah. That's basically what it is. So,
So
and
consciousness
it
is
gives,
important.
say that?
So consciousness is important
Yeah.
in to be self-aware
Yeah.
with that mindset of growing that sense of capacity, that esteem. Am I wrong to say that to grow that esteem, you need to try? You need to
Yeah.
you
And
just
you
need to
need
expose.
to learn to make mistakes. And as I say in one of my book, I don't remember which one,
That's a problem.
you need to, you, you have don't be scared of mistakes, but
Mm,
play with mistakes. Just having a mistake or having 75 in an exam and sitting in a corner crying, it doesn't is going to do it. You
mhm.
have to go back to the exam. Say, Karim, I want to see my exam. I want to learn. I want to learn from the mistake. I want to know exactly what I did wrong, what did not understand, etc.
Yeah.
You're feeding your brain the same way you feed your body when you go to the gym. The
Mhm.
problem we have is that we think we only use 10% of our brain capacity. This is wrong. Every day you use 110% of your brain.
Oh,
So you
wow.
think you're good, you're bad. We are
Mhm.
absolutely bleh. Studies have shown that the brain cannot generate more than 2, 3 thoughts at the same time. This
Two or
is
three
not a
thoughts at the
lot.
same time?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad. We're bad. We're not good. So you need to understand that this is exactly what we need to do. So we have to stop thinking that, we are a computer eating information and bleh, giving it back. This is not the way it works.
So two, three information at the same time. So now I want to hear
Thoughts.
you on thoughts on multitasking.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have your earbuds listening to songs with your, I don't know, studying while TV is on? Is it possible to do, how much, because you learn memory and stress and everything, how much are we able to multitask as human beings? Are we?
My third book is exactly on that. So we did a lot of work on stress at work. When we say stress at work, is stress for students
Mhm,
or your parents at work, how the brain works. What you need to understand is that 2 centuries ago, your grandparents were farmers. They were working on farms. So they were working with their muscles.
mhm,
And then the Industrial Revolution came in, and we took these farmers, we brought them to cities, and we sat them at a desk and say, now you're working with your brain. The thing is, we did all wrong, yeah. And then things started to work. We started working at our brain. And then in the 1990s, you were not born. I know, I was there. In the 1990s, big companies like IBM, etc., came and sold us new technologies, email, internet, etc., telling us it would help us be so efficient, so fast in communication that we would have, we would work 4 days a week, which is never happened. Okay. Now, these were not scientists. They didn't know how the brain worked. Okay. These
mhm,
were sellers. They were selling us these stuff. The thing is, these new technology created in our brain what we call fragmented attention.
mhm,
And the best way to increase your stress hormones is to be in a fragmented attention state, which we all are. This is why we're crazy as hell, because everyone is stressed out. There's no more mammoth. We're
mhm.
not in the war zone and everyone is stressing out. Why? Because we are always doing fragmented attention. In order to explain to you what is fragmented attention, I have to kill another myth on
Okay,
the
let's go.
brain. Here it is. We cannot, humans, do multitasking. And girls, you are not better
Oh
than
la la.
boys. Nah, wait. Why? Why did we think? And it's okay if you thought that we were able to do
Mhm.
this. And I know you tell me, I know what you're thinking right now, listening to me. You're saying, no, 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 I can do many things. Yeah, 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 you can do it. But I'm going to explain to you what the brain does. So, and if we thought that we can do it, it's okay because we scientists thought that we could do multitasking until 2015, when a
Mm,
scientist, more aware than the others, said, can we?
So
And he
teachers can be
started to,
wrong? Are you saying
yeah.
this?
So he started to measure it, and so let me explain to you. Why did we think that we can do multitasking? It came with the computer in the 1960s. It is true that you can ask a computer to start two tasks and do two tasks at the same time, and whoom, they will finish the two tasks. A computer can do this, and we said, well, humans are like computer, humans can do it. We thought about this for many, many years until 2015. This scientist came in and said, really? So decided to test it. Now, Karin, if I ask you to do two tasks, you will. But contrary to the computer who starts the two tasks and wham, this is how your brain will work. Your brain will take your attention, bring it on task one, work a little bit on task one, and then it will bring back your attention in the middle, put it on task two. You will work a little bit on task two. It will bring it back in the center. So your brain will constantly
Mhm,
fragment your attention between the two tasks. And this creates what is called an energy cost.
mhm.
It takes a lot of brain energy to do this. So each time you interrupt what you are doing to do something else, okay, it's an interruption cost. And there is a woman, her name is Gloria Mark. She's a scientist in the US, and she studies fragmented attention in the workplace or in students. And she has many, many studies showing, she has many, many results. For example, we have between 5 and 11 windows open at the same time on our computers. We spend 75.5 seconds per window before changing windows. When we have a ding notification, it takes us 0.62 milliseconds to stop what we were doing to go check
Mm.
out. We watch, us in my age range, we look our email 77 times a day. Now, what she showed is that each time you interrupt what you were doing to do something else, it takes your brain 23 minutes and 15 seconds to bring back the attention to the
23
first task.
minutes and
And I
16
know no
seconds.
one believes me. It's okay. Don't believe me. 23 minutes and 15 seconds is the average of all the studies that was done by Gloria Mark. And why? Because the brain is a player. The brain
Mm.
doesn't like to be in a high concentration state all day. So when you interrupt to do what you were doing to do something else, the brain gets into a I can do this mode. Oh, I could start cleaning the house. I could do this. I could do this. And then you spend this 23 minutes. But this is not important. What is important? Gloria Mark has shown, and many other, that each time you fragment your attention, your stress hormones increase. So
Increase.
it's not stress at work that is killing us. It's the stress of work.
Mm.
It is the way that we are working that increases our stress, and this wherever we are, at home, in the workplace, at college, and the top of a mountain at Bali. I don't care. It is the way we are working. Now, so to answer your question, yes, you can. You can. But the thing is,
At a cost.
not everything at the same time, and there's a cost to that. But music is a different story because it depends on where you are. Always think about this. If you are in a cafe and there's a bunch of conversation going on, oh, you know what happened? And this creates interference. You're way better to put your headphones on. Instrumental music will be better because if you
Yeah.
have, words and these are new words, your brain is like,
Yeah,
you
I
gotta go there.
totally get this.
But no, you're better with headphones. So
Mhm.
there's no law with the brain. I cannot say,
Yeah.
yes, do this. It's always, you have to think about it. If you are alone at home, there's no noise and you feel it. You know when you are in a fragmented attention state, you feel like this guy in the circus rolling its 9 plates. When you are in this state, cool down, give a break to your brain because the thing is that we are demanding so much. Because what you need to understand is that the predictor of mental overload and burnout is fragmented attention.
Mm.
And something that I find very, very interesting, Karim, is that everyone talks about their body nowadays. I've done a marathon. I've done a
Yeah.
triathlon. You see them at the gym. Everyone's talking about, how much care they give to their body. But no one is paying attention to their brain. The thing I would like to tell you is that between a brain and a body, there's just a neck. It's the same thing, right? But let me give you an analogy so that you understand. When you ask to your brain to be in a fragmented attention state every day, 8 hours a day, whatever, 5 days a week, it is the equivalent of if I was asking you, Karim, to put your running shoes and go run 100 kilometers in the woods. There's a
Yeah.
good chance, if you're not a trail runner, that you tell me, so, after 10 kilometers, forget it. I'm going to sit. I'm going to take care of my body. And you would be right. But why is it that we are in a fragmented attention state every day? It is the
Mm.
equivalent. So the brain will try. But at some point, the same way you would sit down and say, whoa, the brain will go off. And and what will happen? I will tell you, I'm going to give you a cue, kids, to know when you are too much in fragmented attention. You have what is called decisional fatigue.
Mm. Choose for
I'm going
me.
to give you an exit. Decisional fatigue. Should I take the car or my bike? The car, not my bike. Should I go to the gym? Yeah. You take out the bag. No, I'm going to stay. You know, when you're like, this is it. This is when the brain is kind of starting to tilt. Stop. Because scientists said, what is the reverse of fragmented attention? Because fragmented attention stresses us, right? What is the reverse? And they found that the reverse is cognitive engagement. Cognitive engagement is your capacity to do one thing at a time without any interference.
Mm-hmm.
And they have shown that when you do this, your stress hormones decrease. Amazing. We said, you can work while de-stressing? Yep.
Oh.
And they said, why? Because the main job of a brain is to learn, right? Now, in order to learn, the brain, and that's important, needs to have the feeling that it progresses.
Mm.
So when you do 9 things at the same time, you don't have the feeling you're progressing. You're just doing stuff. Now, remember when you write
Interesting.
your essay, for example, and there's no interference because you're late. This feeling, you're writing the introduction and then, whoo, this feeling that go there.
Mm-hmm.
Go there once in a while. And I have a message for your young people in college. You cannot do that. This is called deep work. Deep work is the best state for a brain. It's so happy.
Yeah.
But you're not very good, kids, at doing deep work because you never learned it, because you were born with this in your head. You're extremely good at fragmented attention,
Yeah.
but you're very bad at deep work. We are better because we learned it when we were young. Life was slower, and it's okay. But if you want to try deep work. Just try to do something just once. Put this somewhere, hide it, do nothing else. Life will
Mm-hmm.
go on. And after that, 30 minutes twice a week. Just start with that. And then ask yourself, how do I feel? Do I feel better, etc.? And there's another thing I just want to say. I'm always on TikTok or Instagram because I want to see what kids do. You know, what is it, the new thing? And I have my theory for young people. I may be wrong. There's no science behind this. But I was talking to my 26-year-old daughter and, my other girls in the lab. They're 23, 21. And I'm talking about girls because this is what I have mostly in my lab. But what is very, at 24, when I was 24, I was going dancing every time. Now, for the 24 in my lab, what they do knitting. Or they do, petits points. They do,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, comment on dit tricoter en anglais? Knitting,
Knitting. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Knitting.
Yeah, they do knitting and they do, with the needle
Sewing.
work. They
Yeah.
do needle work, etc. And I asked them, I said, my grandma was doing this. Why are they doing this? And I'm talking, and she says, oh, I don't know, but it's so relaxing. This is deep work.
Mm.
When you're knitting, you have to check it out, and you have to check the little needle work. So your brain is pushing you there because it needs it so much.
And you
I
see
think it's
progress.
pushing us. Yeah. And it's pushing us there in at least in, what we do outside of work. And I love seeing this. I said, the brain knows exactly what it needs and it's going to bring us there,
Mm-hmm.
like it or not, because if not, it's going to explode. We have saturated our capacity to be in a fragmented attention mode.
So just the yeah the seeing progress into your work, and this is something I experienced myself when I was a student back when I was doing my master, but still today when my students tell me this, like there's a task they procrastinate because this is stressful, and the more you push it, because it feels heavy, it's like it's going to be painful. You push it, and the more you push it, the more you try to say to your stress it doesn't exist, it's going to go away, the more it grows. And then they tackle it the day before, and when they start, like, this
It's
isn't
easy.
so bad, and they see progress, and they're like, I should have done it before, but next time
And
we do
thank
the
you
same
for asking.
pattern.
Yeah, and this is called avoidance. Many will avoid because they're scared of what it's going to do. I can assure you, you may not believe me.
I will
Try
believe
it.
you, so yeah.
The next time your brain wants to avoid, go above it. Do 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Way in advance. Give your brain, because your brain never learned it. It's going to become addicted to it.
Okay,
And
so
because
this
it's
is
so much
important.
fun. Yeah, it's just give it a try. Just give it a try. Have the feeling. Just feel it. Feel it 30 minutes. Put it aside. Procrastinate as much as you want. What you are avoiding is your anti-stress measure.
Hmm.
That's what is sad. What you're avoiding is the thing that would decrease the stress, that puts you in an avoidance mode. So it's a vicious circle.
I want to say it again so people really understand. When you say, when you want to avoid something, or you don't want to feel something or do something, do it, because you're going
Yeah,
to learn. What you're
yeah,
saying is, neurologically, your brain's going to go in the new pathways of
yeah,
behavior, and it's going to reward you for this and say,
yeah,
good job. Sometimes I say
yeah,
that to people. When you achieve something, my students, that is difficult, it's painful, that you need effort, like learning to play guitar or knitting, like you said. Nobody can take that from you. You did it. You learned it through pain. But when you go to something external to reward you, to ease the stress, like, it just goes away all the time. You need more. It's external
yeah.
rewarding versus internal motivation. This is something very different.
And guitar is a perfect example of cognitive engagement.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Motricity,
Yeah.
connections.
Just, you cannot do this while, texting to everyone and etc.
Mhm.
So just try it. Give your brain a break.
So, concretely, now, everything's concrete since the beginning. As I said, I told you, she's superhuman, concrete. Every tool is not like sometimes I do theory. She's very like concrete. But being a student, 18, 25, 30 years old, it's like sometimes your lack of sleep because social engagement, caffeine, social media, everything, connecting with people, being far away from your family, having pressure, stress, it's tough to be balanced. For the last minutes of our episode today, do you have concrete strategies that our students should apply, they should understand and try more? The few examples you just said, but other than that, your go-to, Sonia. Except eat well, sleep, and do exercise. We know that one.
Okay, sleep well, do exercise. Well, do exercise. Okay. What you need to okay, one thing I will say, people don't like it when I say it, but the stress out people, yes, but not the other one. But then I'll give you a couple of tricks.
Yeah.
We are not that fragile.
Mm.
What I mean by that is that it's not because you are stressed now, because you just came from very far away, you have a new apartment, etc., that you will become depressed, anxious, or burnout. We are not that fragile. Think about it. We survived the mammoth of prehistorical times. We survived
Yeah.
the medieval times where bad people were entering in the village, raping women, cutting their head, putting this on top of spear at the entry. I mean, we've seen worse. The brain is perfectly done to deal with stressor. So we have
Mm.
fragilized ourselves. We have pathologized anxiety. Anxiety is a normal state. Before an exam, it's normal to be anxious and then it's going to go away. It is normal to have an anxious personality. For us scientists, anxiety is an old stuff from prehistorical times, not necessarily a disease. Why? Because think about anxious people. What is an anxious person? It's a super detector of threatening information, right?
Mhm.
Now, let's go back to prehistorical time. Who do you think that mammoth hunter were putting at night to check the mammoth while they were going to bed? They
Stressful
were
person.
putting the anxious people, I'm going to check out. But
Mhm.
today, we still have these, super detector of threat, and seeing threats everywhere. There's less threat. That's it. That's it. So we have to stop thinking that because we have a stress response for 1 month, 2 months because we just arrived from a new place. The brain will adapt. Give the brain a chance. Give the brain time to adapt, because if you start thinking that because you've been stressed out and you eat less because you're not hungry for 3 weeks, that's it, you're going to become depressed. Remember
Mhm.
the power of mindset? Bam, you're gone.
Mhm.
We are not that fragile. We are mammoth hunter. We can
Mhm.
do this. So, and you can be certain of this, we would never have survived all of this. Never, never, never. So stop fragilizing yourself. Stop internalizing stress states. I remember I was giving a conference to a high school grade 4, and there's this girl at the end coming to me and she says, hello, madame, I'm anxious. And I looked at her, I said, what's your name, dear?
Mm.
Never internalize anxiety. You're not
Yeah.
anxious. What
It's
is
your
your name?
personality. Mhm.
This is just something happening to you now. It might go away. Yes, it can become a disorder. 0.5% of the population, not 95. So
Mm.
that's the most important thing. Second thing, when you are stressed out, Karim, I've been studying stress for 30 years. You cannot beat me on this. I know everything. But I have as much stress as you do. This is called life.
Mhm.
This I have as much, The thing is that I know what to do. I know how to recognize it and I know what to do. Couple of things I want to tell you. When you are stressed out, let's say you just came from very far, you have a new apartment, don't have a lot of friends, etc. You're very stressed out. Don't talk.
Mm.
We talk too much when we are stressed. Think about it. When you are stressed out, your brain is full of stress hormones. Nothing intelligent will come out of that. You
Mm.
have problems thinking about it. You have a little hamster making you ruminate. Yeah, because what is the hamster making you ruminate about it at night? It's nothing else. It's your best friend, actually. It's
Mm.
nothing else than your brain telling you you have a threat. Yeah, you have to deal
Mhm.
with it. But
Reminder.
but the first thing you want to do is take out these stress hormones from your brain so you can think correctly.
Mm.
Your best asset is your body. And I know it
Energy.
sounds esoteric like that, but it is. Why? Because, and a couple of things, just want to tell you. The first thing you can do when you are stressed, you mobilize energy. But you have to lose the energy. If not, it's going to go there. And then you will activate your little hamster. So you have to lose the mobilized energy. And people think they have to go to the gym for 2.5 hours. I never said that. Twice 15 minutes will do the job. This is why I've been walking my dog for 30 years. Not the same dog eventually, but this is why. And sometimes people say, okay, what do you do with the dog when it rains? I still want the dog, but let's say it rains a lot. I will use anything that
Mhm.
nature gave me. The number of times, my friend, that I de-stressed my kids by having them listening to Britney Spears at top in the speaker of the house. What do you
Mhm.
think that mammoth hunter were doing at night after the chase? They were dancing at the
Dancing.
sound. Yeah, at the sound of the music. And what were they doing while dancing? They were losing the mobilized energy. Go
Mhm.
dancing. Simple. Go dancing. Go dancing. That's simple. Sing. Why? Because when you sing, you do diaphragmatic breathing, like the breathing, the belly breathing. I'm going to give you a little crash course on belly breathing because
Okay.
sometimes people do it all wrong and they pass out. I don't want this to happen. And the hyper performance, don't do 12 in a row. You will pass out. 3, 4. So each time you bring air in your body, you have to do the biggest belly possible. Simple as that. Quit, 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 quit. Why? Because under your thoracic cage, there's a muscle that is called the diaphragm. The biggest belly you do, the more extension you put on the muscle. And at a certain level of extension, bam, you activate the parasympathetic system response that stops the stress response.
Mhm.
One way to do belly breathing without even realizing it, sing. When you sing, you do belly breathing. The number of times I sang in my car, do this. And the last one, because I see time going on, laugh, laugh.
Laughing.
Laugh. When I'm very stressed out, I'm a crazy woman, I know, but I go on the street and I smile at everyone because it's called emotion contagion. It's an instinct. They will smile back. I'm like, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Give it to me. I need it. I'm a crazy woman, I know, but laughing. And people are always looking at me saying, oh, yeah. Why? Why is it that when you laugh, you decrease your stress hormones? Because you could not kill a mammoth while laughing, right?
No,
So
I'll
is it
be
as if when you're laughing, the brain says, Balus, calm down, it's not a mammoth, she's laughing. But if you come every day at school upset with everything going
Yeah.
on with Trump, the
Looking
brain will
down.
say, oh my God, a threat. And it
Mm.
will produce stress hormones, you sitting in the cafeteria.
Yeah. So
This is what you have to. It's not a stress, it's a challenge. Play with your brain. It's your best friend. That's the most important message I can
mhm.
tell you. You can do it. You will do it. That's for sure.
So we have to look at ourselves and challenge ourselves a lot more and put stuff in perspective a lot more. So
Yeah. And we are not that fragile.
we
We
are
are
not that
not.
fragile. You know what? You should really go take a coffee with Dr. Genero because she said something just like that. She said, "My kid broke his arm and was like he played. He did
Yeah.
something. He will be repaired. You get out.
Yeah.
You went
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
So we are not that fragile. You're right.
No, no, no,
We
no.
can overcome, but it's a perspective mindset. And at some point, it's a decision, not in absolute stress, but in relative stress.
Yep.
It's a decision. So
Yep.
I was kidding when I said, yeah, healthy diet, sleep, but this is basic. Of course, it's basic. It's important to take care of ourselves, to sleep well, and to be a bit away from social media a little bit. It's a threat to the ego, I guess. But to have that mindset, to recognize, oh, I'm triggered now. I'm feeling stress. This is a challenge. This is not a
Yep.
problem. This is
And
something.
follow your instinct. Your brain knows
Yeah,
what it needs.
your gut
So
feeling.
if you like, and you say, okay, I have to run.
Mm.
I have to cry. Follow your instinct. The brain knows what it needs to do. We don't listen to it.
So for final words, you say to students, you got this. You can do this. You're
Oh
not
yeah,
that
you got
fragile.
this.
Okay.
Sure. I have no doubts for the future. We're good mammoth hunter.
Thank you so very much, Sonia. I appreciate your generosity, you stepping in that stressful situation. Like you don't know who I am, and
You did well with
you did the
unpredictability.
job. I'm just here listening and enjoying this conversation. So thank you so very much, and please buy her books. Good to see what she's doing, her work, or she's done, I think, a 1,100 podcasts.
There's only one book for those of you guys speaking English, and we have a high school grade 5 reading the book. The book is written for people to understand the way. If you think you understood what I said, it's the same. My most popular book has been translated in English. It's only available on Amazon. You can print it or Kindle it or whatever. It's called For the Love of Stress. So for those of you speaking English, if you are alone at home and you want to know more about everything I've said and you want me to cheer you up about what you can do with stress, you can go and get that.
Perfect. So thank you very much, and see you all in the next episode.